Consistently winning awards for being the worst company in the world hasn't done much to stop EA from continuing to fumble the ball repeatedly over the last few years. The company has a penchant for exploitation and treating its consumers as secondary to itself. This fact has been showcased through countless missteps over the past few years, such as 2017's Battlefront II release that saw a significant portion of the game's content locked behind unreasonably expensive loot boxes. Eventually, gamer outrage and lack of traction forced them to remove them for a while until they could re-implement them under less exploitative conditions. But by that time, gamers had already moved on, and Battlefront 2 became yet another stain on EA's name and damaged the reputation of its developer DICE. Perhaps the most offensive of all is Anthem, a game that is seemingly never going to become more than a blemish on developer BioWare's name, stuck in a perpetual, unfinished, broken state as player count continues to dwindle. EA has notoriously pushed back the game's update roadmap and has left gamers for months with no news or updates on major problems within the game, leading to players losing interest and moving on to better, more fleshed out experiences. Of course, it wouldn't be EA, however, if they didn't continue to one-up themselves with undeserved pats on the back and self-glorifying statements in an attempt to dodge the endless accusations of their mistreatment of gamers. The newest of these comes from the company's Vice President of Legal and Government Affairs, Carrie Hopkins, during her appearance before a House of Commons committee this past Wednesday. Hopkins responded to a question of whether EA felt there were ethical qualms with loot boxes, and went on record saying, "We do agree with the UK Gambling Commission, the Australian Gambling Commission, and many other gambling commissions that they aren't gambling, and we also disagree that there's evidence that shows it leads to gambling. Instead, we think it's like many other products that people enjoy in a healthy way, and like the element of surprise." She went on to say, quote, "We do think that the way that we have implemented these kinds of mechanics, and FIFA of course is our big one, our FIFA Ultimate Team and our packs, is actually quite ethical and quite fun, quite enjoyable to people." She continued while also comparing loot boxes to Kinder Eggs, a popular chocolate candy that serves to conceal a randomized toy in what was previously banned in the US due to choking concerns in children. People like surprises, she claimed, insisting that loot boxes are little more than surprise mechanics. However, recent research has shown loot boxes tend to aggressively target those with problematic gambling issues and can exacerbate the behavior. It's for this reason British Parliament is continuing to investigate loot boxes and their correlation to gambling and harmful outcomes, especially in children. A 2018 study in the UK concluded that 450,000 children in its 4 countries regularly gambled in some manner while between the ages of 11 and 16. And an Australian study found that loot boxes condition gamers to desire the thrill associated with gambling. Some countries have outright stated that their laws have been violated altogether. So why would EA be so insistent that loot boxes are healthy, fun ways to obtain in-game items when the majority of gamers and research disagree? Well, it's obvious really. Profit. Many of EA's games receive a disproportionate amount of profit from microtransactions and loot box mechanics, rendering the sale of the game itself a drop of water in the bucket. And with many of its major titles like FIFA being reliant on these mechanics, it's within their best interest financially to pressure their beliefs on others. Many of us aren't buying these statements though. And look, it's easy to understand that development and publishing costs for games have increased significantly over the years, and the $60 price tag is no longer providing enough profit for some developers who have invested half a decade or more into massive teams of people making the game. We've all grown accustomed to DLC and some fairly priced microtransactions as acceptable ways for developers to recoup some development cost. But there comes a point where lines begin to blur between fair ways for game creators to thrive and unhealthy relationships between publishers and gamers. Is paying $5 for a skin a little ridiculous? Well, sure, but at least you can rest assured that your $5 is getting you something you want, and you're making a conscious choice to trade your money for a product you desire. Additionally, you can rest comfortably knowing that you're supporting a developer you appreciate and help keep them churning out new content and games for you to love for many years to come. But when that content is hidden from you and doled out at random, you're not being treated with the same level of respect as you're offering them by supporting their game. Instead, you're being exploited in the game of chance as you throw money at them in hopes of obtaining an item you might want to have, while often repeatedly being given something that you'd have otherwise never purchased. It's really simple psychology, and they're playing you to the fullest. Granted, the most common argument is that it's always a choice anyways, but this kind of misses the point. In a game that hides a large portion of its content behind paywalls of this nature, gamers are put in situations that require them to invest more money to enjoy the game to its fullest extent. It's only fun and ethical when you know what you're going to get back, not when it's offered randomly. If a game offered normal, fair microtransactions for gamers to obtain items, they would then be free to choose whether they wanted to obtain the $5 skin. This isn't exploitative because players aren't forced to engage a rigged system just to enjoy all the aspects of the game. There's nothing particularly enjoyable about being presented with a gamble or just don't get any items scenario by a publisher or developer. When people say that such exploitation is fun and ethical, well, we just don't agree with such a statement. It's yet another excuse from EA for holding back content and selling it to you in a way that demands that you invest consistently until chance works in your favor. And the quieter we are about it, the more publishers like EA are able to get away with it while people debate over semantics. So what can you do? Well, stop being quiet and vote with your wallet. And that wraps it up. If you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing to our channel. We upload new videos daily. Also, don't forget to switch on the bell notification icon, that way you don't miss out on any of our videos.